Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys from Africa, you know we love the Big C tribe. We love you in Canada. But Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
We're still getting over the mistiness of that national championship run that was down here. The celebration still has not stopped. People are still, dropping bottles on the floor and carrying on, ridiculously. But, now it's time to move on to the playoffs where we still have some celebrations. When you think about that, Charlton, how the South is dominating not just the college football landscape, but the professional football landscape. When you think about the Tennessee Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Charlton, the New Orleans Saints, all being in the playoffs, representing the South.
Yeah, I think it's a conspiracy, Big C. It's a major conspiracy. That's what it is. Today's a beautiful January the 11th, 2018 in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And as you mentioned, with the things that we talked about over the years, especially how football brings people together. And we know that sports is just $1 billion business. But you just brought this thing up about the South, how they take it so serious down south. You guys don't have a lot of sunshine year round. You guys deal with rain and sometimes the hurricane and the flooding and all that jazz, sometimes even snow in some parts of the South. But what is it about football that resonates so much that teams are still partying? The national championship, I think, was played on Monday, Big C. Your thoughts?
I'm trying to figure out which West Coast team is left in the
Oh, my goodness. Even when you look at the NFL, there are no more West Coast teams. If my math is right, there's no one left west of the Mississippi River. That's the crazy thing. When you look at the West Coast, no pro football, no college football competing for championships. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's what makes everyone party down here, because we take the game seriously.
Yeah.
You guys out there with all that sunshine and the surf
and good-looking women. Yeah.
What do you call it? Sushi? We fly fish down there.
I had sushi today.
So, and that's what we opponents when we play. We make sure when the game is over, there's no wiggle left, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you talk about the tenacity of Southerners playing sports, Charlton, and football has always been on the top of the heap. You don't hear a lot of that diversity down here where you're trying to be basketball stars and all of that. Yeah. But, when you come from that infancy, when you first start playing football and pop water, Charlton, flag football and touch, it's put into their mindset and their makeup that you play as long as you can. Yeah. The thing about football and guys who compete for championships, Charlton, they don't worry about anything else other than no time off. They're not thinking about time off. They're thinking about playing. The last thing they want to hear is time off. And when you see guys making reservations, Charlton, to go on their trips and all that, you don't get that from that Southern mentality. It's back to the weight room when you lose. And I think that's the biggest difference, is that there's not too many distractions in the southern part of the United States like there are elsewhere. When you see players with all type of alternative things to do other than the playing field, not wanting to put the 10 to 12 hours a day into the facilities, as far as watching film, going over game plans with coaches, and even talking with each other, Charlton. That's the biggest difference, is that there's a dedication level and not so much of a hype. When you even look at those college players on the West Coast, all of those guys all season long were sitting up talking about who was going to go first in the draft, who was going to declare. That was the talk from your friends Kuiper and McShay all the time.
Not my friends. That's a good point. I do want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You brought up something, Big C. We talked about Malcolm Gladwell. He says the tipping point, 10,000 hours of anything makes you a so-called expert. And I know in anything that anyone does in life, the more you do it, the more it becomes a habit. And when I hear some of the players that are at these Elite 11 camps, and Alabama gets a lot of them, These Elite 11 camps, they don't happen during the game season, Big C. They happen in the off season. So these players are doing it more year round. Is that what the South has caught on to? Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, something it is. You have guys out here who concentrate on one sport. There's always been a big thing, I believe, out west to have a multi-sport athlete.
Yeah.
Other than a guy who is practicing just on one particular sport and honing his skills in that.
Yeah.
And you see so much of that. You don't hear the dual sport athletes. I mean, there was Bo Jackson who came out of the South, Frank Thomas. These guys were dual sport athletes.
Yeah.
But since then, you really haven't heard about it, Charles. You have guys who isolate on one sport.
Yeah.
And they work on that year-round. 12 months out of the year, they're spending time honing their skills. And you see that, Charlton, at this time of the year in the NFL as well as, in college football. When you look at these NFL teams, Charlton, I'm going to say at least 50% of the players on these teams, if not 60, is from the South.
Yeah.
Because that's their mindset. They're here in the Southeast.
Yeah.
They're looking at playing year-round. Guys on the West Coast, even on the college level, you look at the high school teams, Charlton, they're just not as pushed. I know there was a week when you called off the top high school teams.
Yeah.
So many of them were out of the South and out of Florida and out of Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the mindset of these kids, Charlton, at an early age.
But I will say, to represent the West Coast, modern day high school Santa Ana did win the high school national championship out of Southern California. But when you think about that too, Big C, they're a lot like Alabama. There's a school up in Northern California called De La Salle. They're a lot like Alabama. What they do in high school, though, they'll go out and get kids that don't even live in the boundaries of the school district. And because they're private schools, some of these kids will travel 30 to 40 miles, bypassing 4 or 5 high schools just to get to that private school. So they're always in the championship games. Unlike some of the small towns, there's some small towns out in California by the name of Dos Palos and Los Banos that people never heard of. Tulare and towns way up north called Sutterville, and they've never heard of those big. They have big time programs, but they're not big time cities. But even those kids, there's some kids out of all over California. They go to the combines too, and so I think you're onto something when you talked about how they take it so serious down south. How they'll go to combines. But the combines down south, it's kind of like it's on campus where they don't have to go and meet someone in Portland, Oregon, or downtown Los Angeles or San Francisco. They do it with a lot of small towns that come in, I guess, closer proximity to the universities, Big C, that make any sense.
Well, Charlton, even when you look east or west of Texas, okay?
Yeah.
There are 2 stadiums out there that get close to 100,000. I think Rose Bowl, they reduced it under 100,000.
Yeah.
And the Coliseum is around 90,000.
Yeah.
You find 100,000-seat stadiums all throughout the South, Charlton, starting in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Moving all the way east. And those stadiums are packed on game day.
Yeah.
You get 50,000-seat stadiums on the West Coast, you can't even fill. I believe Washington State holds, 32,000, 34,000?
Yeah, about 34,000.
In a Pac-12 conference, Charlton. Oregon is in the same capacity, around 35,000.
Oregon State, yeah.
And so when you look at these major conferences and you wonder why these teams are not looked at when it talks about playoffs, they're saying if they can't sell out their stadium, Stanford, 50,000.
Yeah.
David Shaw's a tremendous coach, but
yeah.
You can't sell out the stadium. How can you travel if you get into the championship race?
Yeah.
That's what's a part of the consideration, Charles.
Yeah.
You can't bring anybody. You look at the Big Ten, you got 3 or 4 stadiums that's over 100,000 and several over 80,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
As well as in the SEC. So that consideration, and you talked about those kids yesterday leaving California, going to Alabama and playing, going to Notre Dame playing, Charlton, going to Michigan State, Michigan playing football, going to LSU, going to Texas A&M playing football, the University of Texas. They want to go where they can be seen. You think about it. 1 game at the University of Alabama equals 3 games at Stanford.
Yeah.
As far as attendance.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, the same thing, Charlton. So when Happy Valley and Ohio State.
Yeah.
When you can have 1 game and you get 100,000+ fans in that game, Charlton, versus some of those West Coast teams, Charlton, that are in a power conference.
Yeah.
Utah, I don't think they see 50,000.
No, they hold about 41,000 in Utah.
Schools, Charlton,
yeah.
That don't have 50,000 attendance in their stadiums. How do you feel as a player when you go there and the stadium's only half full, and you got 25,000 people in the stadium? If you go to an SEC game, Charlton, one of the top teams, and the stadium's half full, you still got 50 to 60,000 people. That's late in the 4th quarter when the game's over, Charlton.
That's a good point. You think about Cal and Stanford. I've covered the Pac-12 since about 1996. They're in a media market that has about 7 million people in the Bay Area. Cal holds about 65,000, and they usually get about maybe 50,000 in their seats. I mean, unless they have the big game, then they'll have it sold out. Stanford holds about 50,000. They'll average about 40,000 at home, unless the big game shows up. But that's a good point you brought up. University of Washington, they remodeled Husky Stadium. It used to hold 75,000, and now it holds 72,000. It's a great environment, but it's still about 30,000 seats less than what you have at Alabama. If you were to look at why would you go to Washington over going to Alabama? Another program that's been very successful over the last decade at Oregon with Phil Knight's money, University of Oregon Ducks. They're the team that has about 19 different uniforms, or maybe they have 91 different uniform connections. They have about 60,000 at their stadium, 59,000, 60,000, and they sell out all the time. But Eugene's in a small town. It's not in Portland that's a major media market, but Seattle sells out, so the Huskies sell out. But it is different on the West Coast. I think, Big C, they say the women are prettier on the West Coast. Is that why guys are not so focused on football as they are down south? Big C, your thoughts? Yeah.
The thing is, the dedication to a craft.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the Southern mentality in athletics versus the West Coast. I mean, even after practice, they're looking for alternative things to do on the West Coast, Charlton. They're trying to go out, whether they're surfing, going, like I said, going to eat sushi.
Yeah.
Going, rapping, or whatever they got to do, Charlton.
I had sushi today.
I mean, you leave practice and go to the weight room. That dedication that you have, and that resonates over as you move on in life, Charlton, getting out of high school, getting into college.
Yeah.
You come in with that work ethic.
Yeah.
And like I said, we got 3 Southern teams in the NFC playoffs, in the NFL playoffs, Charlton.
Yeah.
You have no one from the West Coast. And you think about that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, we talked about the college games coming on at late hours.
Yeah, late hours.
Even the NFL games come on at late hours, Charlton.
Yeah.
On Sunday.
Yeah.
But when you have no representation, past the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
In the NFL playoffs, you think back to the days when the 49ers dominated.
Yeah.
Then Western was always out there, the Rams.
The Raiders.
One of those perennial teams, the Raiders.
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs were perennial teams in the playoffs, Charlton.
Yeah.
Now we have no participation. Seattle Seahawks went to a few Super Bowls.
Denver,
but
yeah.
no participation. So where is the interest in the western half of this country, Charlton, when you look at college and pro football? Where are they going to be on Sunday? Are they going to be tuning in and saying, this is must-see TV?
Yeah, that's true, Big C. I think that's a good point. The power swing is definitely there. Let me take you back to, say, when you were graduating high school and you had all these offers and people are telling you to come to their program. I just want to throw up some names and get your thought, what kids thought back in the day compared to what some kid might think now. Let's say you're growing up down south and someone says, hey, would you like to play football? We want to offer you a scholarship and we want you to come to Memphis. Memphis finished ranked 24th in the country, Big C, out of the south. Now, the next scholarship letter you get it from some good old boys that says, we would love to have you come play football down at the University of Miami. Then you get a third letter. That third letter says, we would love to have you come play football at the University of Ohio State. Big C, as a young man back in the day and even now, which one of those schools has more appeal, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, at that time, Ohio State, Charlton, because it was a nationally recognized program.
Yeah.
Everybody knew the legendary Woody Hayes. He had Heisman Trophy winners, Charlton, when I came out of high school. He had 2 of them. He had
Archie Griffin?
And Archie Griffin.
Yeah.
They'd have been Heisman Trophy winners. I'm trying to remember the name. Taylor, it was in 68.
Yeah.
So he won the Heisman Trophy for Ohio State.
Yeah.
He had Outland Trophy winners as linemen. So, this was a program that was well developed, great linebacking cores over the decades.
Yeah.
But, they had the recognition because they were seen on television. You always saw the big game with Michigan.
Yeah.
And Ohio State.
Yep.
Periodically, you would see Michigan State play Ohio State. But Miami, you didn't see Miami, Charlton, on television.
No.
Back in that era. You didn't see them prior to Jim Kelly be on television. Memphis, you didn't even know they exist. All you know about Memphis is that
Elvis. Yeah.
Nothing else. So,
Yeah.
And I remember being recruited very vividly, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you had coaches talking about, we'll let you call home every week.
Right.
You can come in and make a long distance phone call every week if you're homesick.
Yeah.
And that was a big carrot.
Yeah.
Not only that, we'll fly you home twice a year.
Yeah.
Not realizing that flying you home twice a year, one meant doing a Christmas school without. You couldn't
Yeah.
Because we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
You know, and didn't have enough quarters because your parents were.
Yeah.
You had to carry around enough quarters, you know,
Yeah.
to call home.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
in that era.
That's true. And another thing, too, that you didn't have back in the day is you didn't have kids walking around sagging. That thug look that a lot of dumb kids do, where they walk around with their underwear hanging out, and you can see butt stains sometimes. Some of these kids don't know. You can see the racetracks in the pants. But I'm thinking about it because when you think about a kid, and why a lot of kids leave these major metropolitan areas, whether it's the Bay Area or Los Angeles. And I'm an old school guy, so I'm thinking if you go back to some of these smaller universities, smaller towns, it's not too cool to walk around with your underwear hanging out. And I talked to some young college kids, high school kids that were going to college at some of the combines that I've worked. And I said, why do you want to leave LA of all places? You're in the heartbed of talent down here in Southern California. Big C, some of the same guys that walk around LA that are good enough to go play at USC, but they'll choose to go to Oklahoma or Alabama or Georgia. They say they want to get away from that environment because there's a lot of dumb kids left behind that don't have the parenting that says pull your pants up, maybe some people don't see that as an issue, but I think the peer pressure that kids have out here sometimes in these major cities, they want to get away, so they'll go out to a small town like Eugene, Oregon. They'll go down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or they'll go to Lincoln, Nebraska, because I don't think that dumb look with your underwear hanging out is as fashionable, and I think they can get away from that peer pressure. I think that's a big reason why a lot of kids are leaving California. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that undaunting peer pressure, Jonathan, that so many young athletes are forced to live under now. And when you say, you think about the University of Kansas basketball program, who in the heck wants to go to Lawrence, Kansas in December
Yeah.
and January?
Yeah.
Out there, but snow and jackrabbits, okay?
Yeah, and it's too cold outside. Get pants down. It's too cold to leave your pants down. They dress better, Big C. Yeah.
Walking around in Nebraska and Kansas, Wyoming,
Pants down on your ankles. Yeah.
You got your pants or something like that.
Yep.
But it changes the cultural mindset of these kids, Charlton, when
Yeah.
you get out of that inner city and you get to see other kids walking around socially,
Yeah.
interacting with each other.
Like they got some sense.
Based on how low your pants are, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's how well you articulate.
Yeah.
And so you grow in leaps and bounds when you go to college.
Yeah.
It is a developmental stage for life. That's what athletes look for.
Yeah.
And when you look at a lot of success out in society, Charlton, you can look back at a lot of athletes who have gone into the corporate world because
Yeah.
they understand teamwork.
Yeah.
They understand team building. They understand structure.
Yeah.
And that's what athletics does for young men and women, Charlton.
Yeah, and also people might think of being flippant, but they also tell you pull your pants up in the corporate America. Now I know there's a law going on in California. There's petitions going on, and they're trying to say there's no tolerance for the sag look in some of the malls. There's no tolerance for the sag look, especially in the schools. And because kids do deal with that peer pressure, if you're a parent and your kid's a good football player, let's say, and you're someplace in a major city in California, sometimes it might be nice to go to Southern Cal, or it might be nice to go to Cal Berkeley or UCLA. But if you're around that element that wants to be a thug, whatever that dumb look is that a lot of kids buy into, even the parents would say, let's send you up to Eugene, Oregon. Let's send you to Lincoln, Nebraska. Let's send you down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And I think Georgia is it Athens, Georgia? I think it's Georgia down in Athens. So those cities don't have the same. I know they have big cities around them like Atlanta, or you have LA has its own issue, and a lot of that mentality. I don't know if it's the same on the East Coast because it's too cold for guys to walk around looking like they're ignorant, Big C. But I think one of the parents, when I talk to some of the parents at the camps that I work, they want their kids to get out of that environment. Because when they pan the LA Coliseum is a beautiful place to play, but around it there's still a lot of social issues based on crime and whatever people got to do to hustle their way into a meal. And I know a lot of people would rather say, listen, let's send our kid across the country to Notre Dame or to Georgia or I won't say Penn State, but Alabama or some of those other programs where they're in smaller communities where that's frowned upon to walk around with your pants down on your knees. Big C, I want to say that sports is a $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century, and they work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. So, Big C, I do want to just say congratulations again to Alabama. I know they're probably going to party up until the next weekend, Big C, because they really appreciate how well they play sports down south. But I do want to also bring some attention to the NBA, what happened last night in the Bay Area. Kevin Durant became the 5th player to become one of the fastest players to hit 20,000 points. And I know he's up there with Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. And you also look at the great, LeBron James did it faster than anyone else. Now you have Durant. But Big C, Wilt Chamberlain did his in about 400 games. He did it less than 500 games. He did it sooner than everybody when it comes to how many games they played, now how old they were. Could you say in a little bit how much more dominant Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain was compared to everyone we see now on SportsCenter? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, talking the thing about the guys on SportsCenter, they don't even know who Wilt is other than the highlight reel.
Yeah.
From the production group passing them.
They didn't see him play. Yeah.
When you think about Wilt played 1 year college ball just like Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But Wilt could not enter the NBA, Charles. Wilt lost a couple years playing with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
So if you take those points that Wilt scored with the Harlem Globetrotters, Wilt reached that statistic 2 years prior to anybody, Charlton.
Yeah.
He escalated. His dominance on the court is personified. When you talk about the 400-plus games that it took him to the 20,000 mark, Charlton.
Yeah.
And like I said, he lost 2 years because he played with the Harlem Globetrotters because the NBA would not allow him in. They didn't want him in that white social club because he was such a dominant player.
Yeah.
And they had no answer for him.
Yeah.
When you look at the free throw lane now in the NBA, Charlton, that's the Wilt lane.
Yeah.
That lane was 6 feet wide when Wilt Chamberlain entered the NBA.
Yeah.
But they saw that no one could keep him away from the rim, so they doubled the width of it, Charlton. It went from 6 to 12 feet.
Yeah.
That is Wilt Chamberlain. In every NBA court should say Wilt Chamberlain lane. That's what they should say because he revolutionized the game. When you think about how dominant these African-American players were, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Charlton, with the revolutionary sky hook.
Yep.
That has never been replicated in an unstoppable force. And Wilt, he was just the dominance of all. Bill Russell just closed down the paint.
Yeah.
But you see Kevin Durant, he's the change of face in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's taller than what Bill Russell was. Think about that.
Oh, really?
Kevin Durant is taller than what Bill Russell was when he was a player. Bill Russell was elevated at 6'9", Kevin Durant 6'11".
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain is 7'1". But you're taking the best attributes of both of those individuals, Charlton, as far as their defensive-minded, their agility.
Yep.
And you're putting a scorer in the place with them.
Yep.
Kevin Durant has shot the ball as well as anybody in the NBA. He's a better shooter than LeBron. LeBron is a more complete player with his physical dominance.
More physical.
But when you think about what Kevin Durant can do with the basketball,
yeah,
and it's a constant mismatch, Jonathan. You can't put anybody his size on him because he goes past him. You put somebody shorter than him who has his agility, he shoots over him.
Yeah.
So he's the ultimate X factor in the NBA today, Jonathan. Everybody is looking for the next Kevin Durant. They talk about the Greek freak in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
He's not Durant. He might be close, but he's not Durant yet.
Yeah, that's a good point, Big C. So I look at what he did last night, went for 40 points last night, and Golden State lost. The energy wasn't right. Maybe sometimes that happens to you where your energy is not right, and the Clippers came in and got a win. Doc Rivers, now they're up in Sacramento tonight playing the Sacramento Kings, and that should be a packed house over in Sacramento. But I want to get your thoughts one more time on Wilt Chamberlain, because you mentioned some of the great things that he did, and he was not on a Sports Center. He was not on a replay of a sports channel where they always run it over and over and over again. And even without that, Big C, he's still one of the most recognized persons in the sports universe, Wilt Chamberlain. And it's because he did it. I mean, he was double teamed all the time. He didn't go out and shoot the 3-point basket because they didn't have it. Here's a guy that could get up and down the court as well as anybody. And you think about the success that he had without the media trying to make him a hype machine. Most of the time he was so successful, they talked about his prowess outside of the court to get people off of how good he was on the court. And I know to some people they think, they're patting him on the back. but oftentimes they tried to malign his character because a lot of people were doing the same thing that Wilt was doing in order to relax Big C, if you understand what I'm saying. Your thoughts?
They were trying to say, how can he have the energy to be such a dominant player?
Yeah.
He was just magnificent in the
Yeah.
game that he controlled. And the media did not know how to handle
No.
African-American athletes in those days, Charlton.
No.
The praise. They get all the praise now.
Yeah.
But in those days, the NBA was still a white player's game.
Yeah.
It was not a black player's game.
Yeah.
And so they still needed to try to publicize those individuals.
Yeah.
But Wilt came in at a time, I mean, this was a guy that when he was in college, Charlton, was a 7-foot-high high jumper.
Really?
Not only was he a basketball star, but he was a track star.
Wasn't he in Kansas?
It was something that was a freak in nature that they didn't know how to go out and publicize.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers media a lot of times, Charlton, when they don't know how to market an individual.
Yeah.
That this guy's greatness, because that's all you can talk about is his greatness.
Yeah.
So instead of talking about Wilt's greatness as a player, it was always brought in about his social life.
Yeah.
His greatness as a player made his social life just as good as it was as a player.
Yeah.
So, but they did not focus on it, because if they had to focus on Wilt's greatness as a player, how player like LeBron has talked about today,
Yeah.
Wilt should have been talked about in his heyday in that same light.
Yeah.
Think about how the landscape of sports broadcasting would be today, Charlton, versus what it was in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. That's true, Big C, because when you think about a guy like LeBron, and they're asking LeBron James of all the people they can ask, you have a guy that's playing arguably the best basketball he's ever played, and there are people saying, well, are you considering retirement, LeBron? Are you considering walking away? He's like, walk away from what? He had said he had a lot of shoes to still sell. But you think about walking away. No one thinks about retiring when you're in the prime of your life and you're doing something that you love. He's not out doing something that he regrets doing for a living. Here's a guy that's doing something that he loves. And even with that, I think how great Wilt Chamberlain was, no matter how much we glorify Michael Jordan through the media, no matter how much we even glorify, say, a LeBron James through the media, or even a Steph Curry, or Durant, or even back in the day when you had Dr. J, none of them could hold a candle to what the great Wilt did, and he did it without a three-point line having to shoot the ball. I want to close up in the last few minutes of the program, Big C. Just give me your thoughts on with what Kevin Durant did, becoming, that 20,000-point club in such a short period of time. If you could pick guys, you know how guys play pickup basketball, and they want to pick up guys that are trying to get into the game, and then you got guys to build a team, and you got the chance to have Wilt Chamberlain, you got the chance to get LeBron James, you have the chance to get Kobe Bryant, and you have the chance to get someone like Kevin Durant, and not even to mention a lot of great players that you could add into the mix. Who do you put first? Who do you draft first on your team? The guys that are more media made, or the guy like Wilt Chamberlain he did his thing without the media hyping him up? Big C, your thoughts?
We're talking, it all depends on the type of game that we're playing. If we're playing just 3-on-3, you're going to take Wilt.
Yeah.
Because Wilt's going to control the middle. Nothing's going to come in or get past him in the middle.
Yeah.
When you're playing 5 guys on the court, you got to look at Kevin Durant. Nobody wants to play with Kobe because he wouldn't pass the ball.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, as far as what he creates, he's inside-outside.
Yeah.
The mobility that he possesses, the cat quickness that he has for being 6'11",
Yeah.
is uncanny. We like LeBron. But LeBron is going to force other players to do without the ball. He's a great passer in the NBA game. But will he be that same player on that street game?
Yeah.
Is he going to hang around the rim all the time? Is he going to kick it out like he does?
Yeah.
With LeBron, people want to watch LeBron.
Yeah.
So that's something that's negative about him, taking him number one.
Yeah.
Is that other players like to watch LeBron play.
Yeah, that's true. And they're always going to find that final question, Big C. When you look at smaller guys like Steph Curry, who can shoot the lights out, we look at what Wilt has done, and you think about it, Curry's probably going to be the next guy that gets to that number of the 20,000. But I want to get your thoughts on how would Steph Curry become as dominant in the world of the big guys if he had to play against Kareem, if he had to play against Wilt, if he had to play against someone like, Russell. Could he be as successful against those big players because he drives the basket a lot where they live, and they could also bang you back in the day? They can't hit you now. They call a foul. How would he succeed in the world of those big guys that we just talked about, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, his perimeter shot, Charlton, is so dominant. He's going to stretch the defense. They're going to have to move it out. They can't pack it in. He doesn't mind if you pack it in. He can fake penetrate like he's going to go in and pull it up at any point.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see the dominant postman anymore in basketball.
Yeah.
The guys going out, Shaq is probably going to be the last one
Yeah.
for a long time. We don't see Arvidas Sabonis
No.
any longer. We don't see a Bob Lanier. We don't see Kareem. We don't see these type of players, Charlton. They can move up and down the floor. The Chief, Robert Parrish, who won a few championships in Boston.
Yeah.
You don't get these 7-footers that can control the tempo of the game. Hakeem Olajuwon did everybody. His game was so spectacular, he was just the dream.
Yeah.
That's all you could call it.
Yeah.
You had to be dreaming to watch what he was doing.
Yeah.
Robinson, Tim Duncan. These big men, Charlton, of that era have changed where everybody now wants to take this outside shot. You look at Boogie Cousins, Anthony Davis. These guys want to shoot outside. The Greek Freak, in Milwaukee, 6'11", wants to shoot outside. It's hard to find a guy, Charlton, that wants to work on the skill at the low post.
Yeah.
They really don't even teach it in college now because you have so much up-tempo basketball.
Yeah.
That everybody's running a spread basketball offense. It's no longer that low post game for the big man any longer.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Big C. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking at women's basketball now and college basketball, Charlton. I mean, these are some tremendous athletes, tremendous programs. It's like tonight, you have number 2 Notre Dame at 17-1 playing number 3, 18-0 Louisville.
Yeah.
And every time we heard about Louisville, it was about the scandal with the men's basketball program, about money being paid, strippers coming in. But we have some tremendous female athletes at the University of Louisville, Charlton, that just not have gotten the notoriety because they've gotten the black eye from former head coach Rick Pitino in that program, Charlton. But just tremendous basketball played on the ladies' side in the Ncaa tonight.
Well, we always appreciate that. Really appreciate your knowledge, bringing up the great Wilt the Stewart Chamberlain. Could do a whole show on how dominant he was in the history of the basketball universe. And you can find out every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network. We're on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. No man should ever put his hand on a woman. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911 because no woman should ever have to deal with that garbage all on her own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.